Welcome to Consolidated Credit's webinar. Today we will teach you 7 tips for conquering debt. Consolidated Credit is a nationally recognized nonprofit credit counseling HUD-approved agency. Our mission is to assist families throughout the United States in ending financial crisis and solving money management problems through education and professional counseling. We offer free credit and budget counseling, debt management services, housing counseling, and financial education. Have you decided that this year is going to be the year that you finally become debt-free? If so, you're not alone. Getting out of debt is consistently one of the top resolutions every year. About 60% of Americans make resolutions, and financial resolutions are always on every top 10 list you see. People resolve to get out of debt, save more and spend less, start saving for retirement or a college fund. But how many people really keep up with their resolutions? Sadly, only about 8%. Research shows that 80% of the people who make resolutions drop them before the end of January. And only 8% of people end up making their resolutions happen. So, if you've made a resolution to get out of debt, it's commendable, but now you need to follow through with a plan. The good news is you've come to the right place to learn how to turn your resolution into reality. Consolidated Credit is here to help you get there with 7 tips that will help you take solid steps forward, and you can start today. Tip number 1, get organized. Figure out how much you owe, who you owe, and where each debt stands. People who feel overwhelmed by debt often start to ignore it. You know your balances are higher than they should be, so you gloss over your statements and just focus on the minimum payment. You need to tally up your debt so you can see exactly where you stand, so you have all the information needed to make a practical plan to get out of debt. Gather up all your most recent monthly statements. You want to write down the type of debt, such as credit card, student loan, auto loan, or mortgage, because you may not always recognize a loan servicer by their name. Find your current balance on your most recent monthly statement. APR refers to the interest rate that gets applied to your debt each month. You can find APR listed on your monthly statements. APR is effectively the cost you pay for using credit. Also note where the debt stands, if it's current, behind, or in collections. All of this information will help you determine the best way to get out of debt for each debt you owe and set priorities for how things will get paid back. Don't forget other kinds of debt too. For example, IRS or state tax debt. You may owe the government back taxes, and the penalties for not paying off tax debt quickly can be extremely steep. Medical collections. Out-of-pocket medical expenses that slip into collections is another common source of debt. Court fines or arrears. You could owe court fines or be behind on child support payments. And while you may not consider that a debt, the consequences of not paying it could end in jail time. So it's another obligation you need to put on your list. Collections for cellular, mobile services, or other utilities. You may also have monthly service bills that have lapsed into collections due to non-payment. Tip number 2, make a budget to see what's realistic. Cash flow is going to be key to becoming debt-free. That's the money you have left over each month, once all the necessities and expenses are covered. The more cash flow you have, the faster you'll be able to get out of debt. So you need to know how much money is left each month after you pay bills and buy necessities. Saving money can't be left off. You also need to make sure things like savings is built into your budget. It may sound counterintuitive. If you're focusing on paying off debt, then don't you want to divert every penny to that effort? The answer is no. You need savings to cover all of those unexpected and usually expensive emergencies that pop up. Otherwise, those will go on credit, and you'll just have more debt to pay off. So how much should you save each month? Experts recommend 5 to 10% of your income. At minimum, work to have at least $500 to $1,000 in reserves to cover any emergencies. Tip number 3, slash your spending to free up more cash flow. Discretionary expenses refer to anything in your budget that's not a necessary expense. The more you scale back, the more cash flow you free up. Find expenses you can cut completely and scale back on things like food. Food is a necessity, but having someone cook for you is a luxury, and it's more expensive than you think. If you're paying for services you can do yourself, cancel them for the time being. Also, don't have multiple music streaming accounts or movie accounts. Pick Netflix or Hulu, but not both. But be careful to not yo-yo financial diet. Extreme budgeting will work about as well as an extreme diet will. You'll get exhausted, bored, and tired of it quickly, which will snap you right back into overspending. So try to leave at least some fun in there to make sure you can keep up with your resolution. But be reasonable. Remember your goal and cut back as much as you think you possibly can. Tip number 4. Explore solutions that will make it easier for you to pay off debt. Slogging along, making regular monthly payments won't get you anywhere, but there are solutions to make it faster and easier to pay off debt. The key to eliminating debts that are current is usually to reduce the APR. Payment plans and debt consolidation can also help you pay off current debts and take care of those that are behind a few payments. But if you have debts and collections, the best option may be debt settlement. Lower APR means you can eliminate debts that you owe faster because you're not wasting so much money on interest charges. Cut interest rates in half and you'll be out of debt twice as fast. So how do I lower APR? For credit cards, call your creditors to negotiate a lower interest rates. For loans, look into refinancing. Just keep in mind that qualifying for lower rates is usually based on your credit score. If you've managed to keep your credit score up, that's good news because you'll get the lowest rates possible. Otherwise, you may need other solutions. So what is debt consolidation? Consolidation refers to any solution that takes multiple debts and merges them into a single monthly payment with the lowest APR possible. First, take multiple debts. Second, roll them into a single monthly payment. And third, aim for the lowest interest rate possible. This also simplifies your bill payment schedule, so you don't have to juggle so many obligations. Balance transfer credit cards and debt consolidation loans both consolidate debt. But again, you need a good credit score to qualify. You can also call your individual creditors to set up a payment plan if you're behind on your payments. Payment plans can work for credit cards, student loans, tax debt, and collections. You can use a debt management program to set up a payment plan for all of your credit card debts and possibly debts that are in collections. There are also payment plans for federal student loans and a payment plan called an installment agreement for tax debt. So why is debt settlement best for collections? When a creditor charges off your credit card, you default on a loan, or a bill goes into collections, the best option is usually settlement. You don't want to settle if your accounts aren't in collections yet because you still have options that won't damage your credit score as badly as settlement does. But a collection account already hurts your score, so your best option is to get rid of it as quickly as possible. When an account is in collections, the debt is already hurting your credit, and settlement is usually the cheapest and fastest option. Settlement is also better for many collection accounts because there's no APR on collection accounts for credit cards, medical expenses, and other bills. That means other solutions that lower APR don't provide as much benefit when you're in collections. Tip number 5, develop your repayment strategy and set some priorities. Once you've explored all of the solutions available for the types of debt you have, you can start taking action. 1. Start setting up solutions for your specific debts. 2. Figure out what needs to be paid off first and what can wait. 3. Decide the best way to set up monthly payments. Call your creditors to negotiate. Shop around for rates on consolidation loans or refinancing options. And if you have collection accounts, check your mail to see if the collector has made you a settlement offer. If you don't consolidate, then debts of the same type should be prioritized by APR, and collection should be prioritized based on how long the account has been delinquent. So, how do you prioritize debts of the same type? If the debt is current, prioritize by APR. Pay off the highest interest rate first because it costs you more each month. If the debt is in collections, prioritize based on the statute of limitations. There's a 10-year statute of limitations on collecting almost any debt in any state. So, if you have a really old collection account, it should be at the bottom of your priority list. If you're facing financial hardship and struggling to make everything fit in your budget, don't lose hope and quit. There are solutions that will allow you to stop making payments or reduce your payments temporarily when you're facing a hardship. Not every debt necessarily needs to be paid now. Get student loan deferments or forbearance. You can apply for a forbearance on loans and credit cards. Apply for currently not collectible status for IRS tax debt. Deferment stops student loan payments and can even stop interest charges from accruing on some federal student loans. Forbearance can stop or reduce your monthly payments, but interest charges still accrue. Even the IRS will stop collection actions if you qualify for currently not collectible, although penalties will continue to accrue on what you owe. You can apply for currently not collectible through the IRS website, irs.gov, or with the help of a certified tax attorney. The IRS will review your finances to confirm that you don't have the ability to pay. Once you qualify for the currently not collectible, the IRS will stop all collection accounts and any garnishments. They'll review your financial situation periodically so you can start collection actions again once your situation improves. One final thing to consider as you set up your strategy to become debt-free is how you want to make your payments. Consider payment options carefully. Autopay means you won't miss a payment because you forgot the due date, but it can also lead to added fees and penalties if you don't manage your account. Setting up autopay means that you don't need to remember to make your payments. It can also get you a rate discount on many loans. However, if you have trouble managing your money and checking account, be careful. You could face overdraft fees as well as NFS, which stands for non-sufficient funds, fees, and penalties if the money isn't there when it needs to be. Tip number 6, say no to new debt. One of the biggest roadblocks people face when working on getting out of debt is adding new debt when they're supposed to be focusing on paying down debts. If you keep charging and borrowing, you'll constantly be taking one step forward and 2 steps back. In other words, you'll get nowhere fast. To avoid this cycle of debt, you should avoid any new charges on credit cards. Only take out new financing to either refinance or consolidate. Avoid new loans until you have control of your debt. Only take out new financing if it makes it easier to pay off existing debt. Examples for financing for debt elimination are balance transfer credit cards, debt consolidation loans, refinancing for student loans, auto loans, or your mortgage. If you plan on using new financing to make it easier to eliminate debt, consider things carefully before you proceed. You'll be required to pay fees on any loans you originate, and if you refinance your mortgage, you'll usually face a new round of closing costs. There's also another danger with credit card debt consolidation. You'll zero out the balances on your existing cards when you consolidate, and it can be really easy to run up new balances if you're not careful. Avoid new loans and big expenses. If possible, put off buying any new vehicles. If you need to pay for school, put in the effort to look for scholarships, grants, and work-study programs. Don't take expensive vacations. Staycation until you're out of debt. And until you get out of debt, take precautionary measures to avoid new debt. Don't skip vehicle maintenance because that can lead to expensive repairs. Find inexpensive and fun activities you can do locally, so you can take time off without the expense of travel. And take proper care of your big ticket items like your electronics and appliances. Tip number 7, supercharge your repayment strategy with extra cash. If you received gift cards for the holidays, use them to pay off debt. Some general purpose gift cards can be used just like debit cards to pay bills. Or you can cash in gift cards and transfer the money to your account and pay the bills that way. Use your tax refund to pay off your most problematic debt. Consider taking on extra work to earn some extra cash. Part-time jobs, freelance, consulting work can all help you generate extra income. You can even sell items that you don't need anymore online. The more you can earn, the faster you'll reach your goal. If you're not making any progress, get help. Consolidated Credit's certified credit counselors can evaluate your debts and make recommendations on the best solutions for your situation. They can answer questions about credit cards, medical debt, and collections. We also have a HUD certified housing counselor that can help you if you're facing challenges with your mortgage or if you want to explore options for refinancing. If you're facing challenges with student loans, start by calling your loan servicer. And don't ignore communications from the IRS. It can lead to extra penalties, and they're usually willing to work with you if you can't afford to pay, as long as you don't try to dodge them. We would like to thank you for attending our webinar.